Failing a rebirth isn't the worst part. The worst part is that after failing, I ended up as a featherless bald bird. And what is even worse is, this bald bird actually landed right in the bathing pool of the three realms' greatest god of war. Just 3 seconds ago, I was still the feared young master of the Phoenix clan. But now, I've fallen into the hands of my lifelong nemesis, Cang Xuan. What is more, with those decisive lethal hands of his, he is plucking at my last 2 remaining tail feathers. I should have spat out a blast of Phoenix fire to burn him to a crisp, but because I've lost all my magic, I could only nuzzle humbly against his icy fingertips. I wanted to slap myself for that, just because the look in his eyes right now clearly suggests he is deciding how to serve me up for dinner. However, Cang Xuan's face, which could make any heart swoon, was right before my eyes. His long hair was soaked with pool water, clinging to his cold, firm chest. I widened my tiny bead-like eyes, trying to look as harmless and stupid as possible. Where did this ugly thing come from? You're the ugly one. Your whole family is ugly. He frowned slightly, his long, slender fingers disdainfully poking at my bald wings. It's over. Is this god actually going to roast me as a snack? I hardened my heart, letting out a soft chirping sound from my throat, and took the chance to rub my head against the crook of his hand. Cang Xuan's body stiffened instantly. The coldness in his eyes, enough to freeze a soul, flickered with a hint of shock. These eyes, they look a bit like hers. Who is her? What poor soul could look like this ghost of a mess I am now? He didn't throw me out. Instead, he casually grabbed a white robe. He wrapped my sodden body in his cloak. Just as he turned to reach for a teacup on the table, a scroll slipped accidentally from his sleeve. The scroll unfurled across the floor, revealing a woman in robes as red as fire, a vermilion mark between her brows, looking arrogant and unconquerable. That was actually me. I treat him like a sworn enemy. Yet this jerk has been secretly hiding a portrait of me. And looking at the wear on the edges of the scroll, it is clear he takes it out to touch it every single day. What the hell? Does this god of sand have a crush on me? He rolled up the painting with lightning speed, his fingertips even lingering for a second to caress the face of the woman in red. A pervert. He is definitely a pervert. Before I could recover from the shock, he expertly hoisted me up by the scruff of my neck, his movements practiced and natural. The Kunlun immortal feast is about to begin. Behave yourself and don't embarrass me. Above the jade pool, mists of immortality swirled. The gods were busy exchanging cups and toasts. When Cang Xuan sat down with his icy expression, the entire venue fell into a deathly silence. Everyone's gaze fell straight onto his arms, staring at my wrinkled, bald bird head. The fairy of flowers covered her mouth and giggled. Lord God of War, where did you find this bald quail? Did you bring it along as a snack for your wine? A quail. Your whole family is a pack of hairless quails. Cang Xuan didn't even lift an eyelid, the chill radiating from him, instantly bringing the jade pool's temperature to freezing. This is my spirit pet. Who dares to speak ill of it? In front of everyone's eyes, he plucked a purple gold grape with his slender fingers, his fingertips trembling slightly, and with remarkable patience peeled the thin skin off. Then, open up. He offered the crystal clear pulp to my beak, his voice softer than it had ever been. This sight is absolutely terrifying. The eyes of those old immortals down there are about to fall into their wine cups. I am overwhelmed by this unexpected favor, and while I'm busy stuffing my face, my eyes catch a dark red fruit at the corner of the table, a 10,000-year vermilion fruit. Eating just one can grant a millennium of cultivation. If I eat it, I can escape. Catching him off guard, I stretch out my neck and gulp it down in one bite. Oh my god, it is hot, hot, hot. My stomach is going to explode. How violent that 10,000-year spiritual energy is. My frail body instantly felt like a powder keg that had been lit. My skin turned nearly transparent from the heat. Cang Xuan's expression changed abruptly, his palm pressed firmly against my back. I felt a surge of incredibly pure, icy original spiritual energy rush into my meridians like a tidal wave, forcefully suppressing that violent turbulence. To think he would drain his own god of war essence just to save me. In a daze, he brought me back to his living quarters. It was exactly 9:15 at night. Even after such a massive exertion, he still went through his routine of changing clothes and washing up, and he even ensured the tips of his boots were perfectly aligned with the tiles on the floor. Case closed. This god of war who kills without blinking is not only reserved, but also has a severe case of obsessive-compulsive disorder. Old fuddy-duddy. While he was busy precisely aligning his boots, I just wanted to roll over and get some sleep. When the chamber door was violently blasted open by an overbearing immortal force, the Heavenly Empress has issued a decree. The god of war Cang Xuan is harboring a demon, which may lead to catastrophe. We are ordered to seize it and seal it away. Oh no. That woman is actually obsessed with me, this bald chicken. Cang Xuan, still holding a cleaning cloth, felt a 1,000-year frost gather in his eyes. What belongs to me? Who dares to touch it? The opposing side actually unleashed the divine order of the heavens, taking advantage of the fact that Cang Xuan's essence was damaged and his movements were sluggish. A golden net ensnared me instantly. Before I could even wail, I was forcibly dragged away. In the blink of an eye, I was brought to the Heavenly Empress's chambers. Before me stood the 9-turn alchemy furnace, raging with samadhi true fire, a remnant of the Phoenix clan. Even if it is just a scruffy, bedraggled bird, must be reduced to ashes, so that I may have peace of mind. With a wave of her hand, I was heartlessly thrown into the furnace. The scorching heat waves nearly singed off my last few feathers. It is over. My dream of returning to my prime, before it had even begun, was about to be reduced to dust. Just as the lid was about to close, the entire 9 heavens shook violently. A pitch-black longsword pierced the clouds, smashing through the roof of the Empress's palace. Amidst the flying debris, Cang Xuan stood against the light, his dark robes fluttering, his heavy sword pointed directly at the Empress's throat. Even if she is a demon, she is one that I, Cang Xuan, raised myself. Touch her, and I will level this Lingxiao palace. In that moment, his coolness had nothing to do with any obsessive-compulsive filter. Cang Xuan swept his sleeve sharply, and a gale instantly extinguished the true fire. He strode forward and scooped my shivering form into his arms. Even with the Empress standing there livid, he didn't forget to calmly smooth down the 2 feathers I had singed. Don't be afraid. Let's go home. Before I could even steady my heart, the Empress's reinforcements arrived. Cang Xuan, unwilling to commit mass slaughter in the Heavenly Palace, rushed away with me, plunging into the forbidden far north glacier. Here the snow flies like blades, and every breath turns to ice. Hide. Cang Xuan tucked me into his embrace, his voice revealing a faint, hidden weakness. To save me from the palace just moments ago, he had taken 3 strikes of the Empress's soul-chasing thunder. Beneath his dark robes, his flesh was already mangled. Suddenly, the 10,000-year-old glacier beneath us trembled violently. Black mist surged up from the crevices in the earth. A massive, ancient frost beast broke through the ice. Its jagged fangs reeked of rot. Aimed directly at Cang Xuan. Cang Xuan drew his heavy sword to fight, but his injuries flared up, and his stance faltered suddenly. The heavy blade struck the ice, throwing off blinding sparks. The beast's claws with force enough to tear through space. We're upon him in an instant. Run. Don't look back. Run your head. I hate owing people favors more than anything, especially when it's someone I despise. The phoenix essence within me instantly surged in reverse, shattering the seal that suppressed my cultivation. A phoenix cry pierced the polar night, ignoring the agonizing pain in my soul. I forced the activation of the Phoenix clan's nirvana flame. A torrential sea of fire erupted from this scrawny, bald, feathered body. The frost beast didn't even have time to shriek before being driven back by this blazing ancient wall of fire, scrambling back into the abyss. But the flames were too intense, and I was already spent, unable to control it at all. With a sharp hiss, Cang Xuan's cloak, the one he cherished more than his life, the flowing cloud cloak that couldn't bear a single wrinkle, was instantly licked by the flames, turning to ash. It's over. That was his favorite cloak, and he's a total perfectionist. The ice field fell silent once more, completely drained. I collapsed limply onto the snow. Cang Xuan didn't pay any mind to his vanished cloak, nor did he look at the fleeing beast. He stared intensely into the void, at the fading silhouette of the massive phoenix. His gaze was so deep it sent a chill through my body. A moment later, he slowly crouched down. His cold, snowy fingers gently pinched my neck. This level of nirvana flames. Only one person in the 3 realms can use them. Lihuo. The bird I've been raising actually shares the exact same name as her. Oh boy. I saved him a little too well. I think my cover is about to be blown right here. This is bad. This is really bad. This ice-faced guy's paranoia is acting up. I fought against the searing heat of my inverted meridians and tried my best to widen my wet, beady black eyes. I tilted my head, trying my hardest to look like a clueless, adorable idiot. Cang Xuan's long fingers stroked my back, finally coming to a rest at the charred roots of my tail feathers. Just at this critical moment, the heavenly fate well nearby seemed to be awakened by the nirvana flames from earlier. A blinding golden light erupted from the bottom of the well. The water in the well boiled violently, and an irresistible divine power engulfed both me and Cang Xuan. The heavenly fate well opens, revealing the Empress of the 3 realms. Cang Xuan could no longer spare the effort to interrogate me. With his brow tightly furrowed, he moved in a flash to the edge of the well. Ripples flowed, and a vast, magnificent scene slowly unfolded over the well. In the scene, flowers fell like rain from the sky. A woman dressed in a red ceremonial gown stood high atop the palace of 9 heavens. Her features were exquisite, with a phoenix blossom mark on her forehead, shining brilliantly across the 3 realms. That air of supreme arrogance. Who else could it be but me, Lihuo? Oh my god. Is this holy relic really this shameless? It just projected my giant headshot. The scene continued to shift. Cang Xuan's unchanging, ice-cold face appeared in the vision. He was tenderly taking the woman's hand and kissing her fingertips in front of all the gods and Buddhas. 8 gold-plated characters appeared on the water. Phoenix reborn. The Empress is declared. Cang Xuan froze in place, like a weathered stone statue. He looked down at the creature held in his left hand. That scruffy, pitch black, and faintly scorched bald feathered chicken, then looked back up at the stunning, ethereal future wife inside the well. Can such a public exposure really happen? The little girl I raised with such painstaking effort is not only that demoness Lihuo, but also destined to be my wife. Cang Xuan's face shifted from white to red, then from red to a sickly green. His grip on me tightened and loosened erratically. Killing intent. I could feel an unprecedented level of killing intent. If not to faint now, then when? I closed my eyes, kicked my legs, and let my head loll limply against his palm. It is over. My injuries are fatal. I'm passing away right here. Cang Xuan's fingers trembled violently. His breathing turned ragged and heavy. Stop looking. Just stop looking. Please. Just lose your memory already. Lihuo, open your eyes and explain this to me. Not opening. Even if I die, I won't open them. What kind of righteous god of war marries the pet he raised himself? Before I could keep up my act, a stern, murderous bell toll echoed from the clouds. Golden war chariots broke through the clouds. Thousands upon thousands of heavenly soldiers completely surrounded the heavens' fate. Well, Cang Xuan, your audacity is boundless. How dare you harbor a remnant of the Phoenix clan? Oh no, it is a shape-shifting seal specifically for avians. A searing sensation swept across my entire body. The demonic power inside me began to rampage under the harsh light. My bones creaked and cracked. My previously scorched and scrawny body began to grow and stretch violently in an instant. My black feathers transformed into a long, fiery red dress. The charred skin became as fair as snow. As the smoke and dust cleared, I stood barefoot before Cang Xuan, my red hair cascading down like a waterfall. That was the peerless beauty of the young mistress of the Lihuo clan. Watching the woman in his arms suddenly fully grown, Cang Xuan looked as if he had been struck by lightning. His right hand remained frozen in a lifting gesture. Lie. Fire. It is over. Now it is truly over for me. Watching the intense killing intent in the Heavenly Queen's eyes, my heart sank violently. If I am captured now, he, the god of war, will be guilty of colluding with the enemy. I will drag him into an inescapable hell. I took a deep breath, the panic in my eyes instantly turning into deep-seated indifference. I shoved Cang Xuan away abruptly and flicked the dust off my red dress with a flippant expression. Ah, it feels so much better to be in this body again. Pretending to be that little bird all day really suffocated me. Cang Xuan's face instantly turned ghastly pale. You were playing me from the very beginning. What else? If it weren't for borrowing the pure yang energy of the war god's manner to heal, who would bother being your obedient little pet? The dignified god of war, actually fawning over the daughter of his mortal enemy. What a fine show you've given me to watch. Cang Xuan clenched his fists tightly, his fingernails digging deep into his palms. Fresh blood dripped through his fingers. Cang Xuan, did you hear? This demoness is full of lies. Why haven't you killed her yet? Thousands of feathered arrows were aimed at my heart. I closed my eyes, waiting for the inevitable judgment. Unexpectedly, a solid and broad bat blocked the path before me at that very moment. Cang Xuan gripped his divine sword, the tip pointing directly at the Heavenly Queen. His voice was cold enough to chill the bone. Whether she lied to me or used me, as long as I live, no one is touching a single hair on her today. As soon as Cang Xuan finished speaking, the once gloomy sky was instantly covered by blood-red clouds. Gale force winds whipped up, and the thunder seemed ready to shatter the divine realm. Oh no, it's the Phoenix clan's second rebirth trial. Every bone in my body began to tremble violently. It was a tearing sensation from the depths of my soul. I couldn't hold on, and I collapsed onto the clouds. It felt as if a raging fire was burning through my heart. Heaven truly favors me. The rebirth trial has descended. This siren will surely be reduced to ashes today. The first bolt of purple gold lightning roared down, carrying a crushing world-destroying pressure. Cang Xuan, move. This is the Phoenix clan's destined trial. You won't be able to withstand it. Yet Cang Xuan didn't even look back. He abruptly withdrew his sword, opened his arms, and pulled me firmly into his embrace. With a thunderous crash, the first bolt of lightning landed squarely on Cang Xuan's back. He let out a muffled groan, and a striking trail of blood spilled from the corner of his mouth. But his arms holding me didn't loosen at all. "Shut up, don't speak. Save your strength for the rebirth." Every moment that followed was a torturous purgatory. The second, the third, all 80 bolts of lightning shattered Cang Xuan's silver armor into pieces. With each bolt that fell, his body shuddered violently. Yet he remained like an immovable monument, blocking every bit of the destructive aura. By the end, his back was a mangled mess of flesh and blood. Golden divine blood spilled all over the ground. He is crazy. He must be insane. For someone like me, his nemesis, would he really exhaust 10,000 years of cultivation? The final bolt of lightning, mixed with crimson trial fire, crashed down. "Cang Xuan, you will die." Cang Xuan slowly lowered his head. In his cold, clear eyes, there is now only an extreme emotion called tenderness. "If I cannot even protect you, what use is this title of war god to me?" With his blood-stained hand, he gently brushed my cheek. A burning hot tear slid down from the corner of his eye, dropping precisely onto my withered brow. A tear of true heart. He actually gave his heart to me. In an instant, a terrifying vitality erupted from within me. 10,000 rays of light pierced the clouds. My bare wings were instantly filled with feathers. A brilliant golden phoenix true form soared into the sky, scattering the lightning clouds across the heavens. I succeeded in my rebirth, light, becoming the true master of the phoenix. Yet I saw Cang Xuan like a kite with a broken string, plummeting from the heights. His divine spark shattered inch by inch in the air, turning into stardust across the sky. Cang Xuan, I dove like a lightning bolt, catching his cold falling body in midair. How could he close his eyes so easily? Without my permission, no one is allowed to take his life. The Heavenly Empress's sneer came from the clouds. "Soldiers, hear my order. The Phoenix Remnant brings chaos to the heavenly realm. Execute her and the sinner Cang Xuan together. Let their souls be annihilated." The divine army pressed down from all sides. Countless divine weapons filled with killing intent pointed straight at my throat. I slowly raised my head, my eyes burning with the southern clarity flame that can incinerate all in this world. "Remnant? Heavenly Empress, I see you really don't want those eyes of yours anymore." With a wave of my hand, the flames of rebirth turned into a downpour of golden rain, instantly blasting the soldiers in the front into dust. Then, I threw an image projection bead from my robes, the truth I had found at the bottom of the rebirth pool. A massive illusion projected into the void, showing the Heavenly Empress tearing up the peace treaty herself, colluding with the demon clan to ambush Cang Xuan, just to seize his divine bones. The formation, previously bristling with killing intent, instantly fell into chaos. You mouth words of protecting all living things, yet the filthiest person here is you, a madwoman masquerading as the Mother of Heaven. The Heavenly Queen turned deathly pale, screaming as she tried to rush forward to destroy the evidence. I let out a cold snort, and with a grasp of my fingers into the void, I forcibly dragged back the shattered soul of Cang Xuan, directly from the violent thunderclouds. So what if his divinity is shattered? So what if his cultivation is scattered? As long as I live, even if it means leveling the underworld, I will piece you back together. I drew his fragmented primordial spirit into my own flame essence to be nurtured. Immediately after, I cradled his body, which was so weak it appeared translucent, and stepped stride by stride onto the Lingxiao Palace. Those arrogant, high-ranking deities were forced to retreat one by the murderous aura radiating from me. The abdication decree, you will sign it, whether you want to or not. From this day forth, the heavenly realm is under my command, and Cang Xuan is under my protection. Should anyone move against him even in the slightest, I will leave these three realms desolate and barren. I threw the mess of the heavenly realm to the elders of the Phoenix clan who had been reborn from the flames, and jumped down to the mortal realm without a backward glance. In this life, it is my turn to watch over him. In a small town misty with rain by the southern river, I became the daughter of the wealthiest man, the Shen family. I was rolling in wealth, and my fame had spread far and wide. And Cang Xuan, in this lifetime, lived in a dilapidated temple on the outskirts of town, a poor scholar coughing his heart out. When I found him, he was being surrounded by a group of thugs, clutching a tattered scroll of scripture tightly in his hands. Looking this frail, Where was any hint of his former majesty as the war god of the three realms? I stepped out of my golden rosewood sedan chair, and with a wave of my hand, gold coins scattered all over the ground. Is this enough money to buy all of your lives? The thugs scrambled away in terror. Cang Xuan held up a tattered paper umbrella, his complexion as pale as paper, yet his spine remained straight. My thanks to you, miss, for your intervention. I have no way to repay such kindness. I walked up to him, boldly snatched the paper umbrella from his hand, and took the opportunity to stroke his hand. It's freezing, you need to build up your strength. Since you have no way to repay me, why not offer yourself in marriage? The scholar's face flushed bright red instantly, the crimson color spreading all the way to his neck. Miss, please have some dignity. A man and a woman should not even touch hands. From that day on, the story of the Shen family's young heiress chasing a sickly scholar became the talk of the town. He lacked ink and brushes, so I bought every one of the finest writing sets in the city. He had exams to take, so I rented out the most luxurious restaurant in town for him. I stuffed precious lingzhi and ginseng into his medicine bowl. Miss Shen, I am unworthy of such gifts. Shut up and drink your medicine, otherwise I'll feed it to you myself. He looked at me, his clear eyes filled with helplessness and doting affection. So this is how satisfying the domineering CEO chasing his fragile wife trope feels. When the peach blossoms were in full bloom, what are you looking at? Cang Xuan, are you going to marry me or not? I held the sugar-coated hawthorn skewer he loved best. If I refuse to marry you, would you plan on kidnapping me up to your mountain, miss? You know it. That year, under the peach trees, the 10-mile stretch was draped in red wedding finery. The entire city was lit with eternal lamps. I waited in the bridal chamber, dressed in my phoenix coronet and robes. The door was gently pushed open. Cang Xuan walked in, wearing his bright red wedding attire. Strange, how does his aura feel more and more like that old ice block? He walked up to me and took a slow, deliberate sip of the nuptial wine. Suddenly, a surge of pure, divine energy instantly shattered his mortal shell. My heart skipped a beat. This is bad, I thought. It is over. His memory has awakened. I lifted my bridal veil and turned to jump out the window. The next second, a pair of slender hands gripped my waist firmly and pulled me tightly into his arms. Where do you think you're going, Huar? I'm done for. There is no escaping now. I turned my head awkwardly and gave his sleeve a fawning tug. My dear husband. It is our wedding night. Let's not get all handsy, shall we? Oh, so now you know to call me husband. When you first found me at Mount Buzhou, you insisted on calling me daddy and made me bathe you myself. Back when you were catching caterpillars, you weren't this well behaved. My face burned with embarrassment. I just wanted to be reborn right there and then. I was young and ignorant back then, okay? Besides, you seem to enjoy raising me well enough. Yes, I certainly enjoyed it. To raise you, this little bald phoenix, I exhausted half of my cultivation, and you went and declared in front of all of heaven that I was your weakness. This debt, shouldn't we settle it in full tonight? 5 years later, Phoenix Divine Mountain. Across the hills, the parasol trees were hung with colorful rattles. He held a golden little phoenix in each hand, with a baby bottle dangling from his mouth. Eldest, don't pull your mother's feathers. Third one, spit out that fireball. That is not candy. I reclined on a rocking chair, leisurely cracking spiritual seeds. Cang Xuan, the boys want to see you sword dance. My lady, the only thing my sword is for these days is peeling fruit for our sons. Though, if you want to see it, I can spar with you in a different way. Get lost, my back is sore. In the sea of clouds in the distance, a phoenix let out a long cry. The heavenly realm is at peace. I leaned on his shoulder and closed my eyes. In this lifetime, no longer the god of war, no longer the heavenly emperor, just wishing to be, in this mortal world, the only doting father and the only husband. Sunlight filtered through the fiery red phoenix tree leaves, sprinkling like gold dust over our family of 5. Lihuo, stop just munching on sunflower seeds. Our 4th son just swallowed the gift, sent from the heavenly realm, that 10,000-year-old East Sea pearl. Aren't you going to do something about it? So he swallowed it. So what? It is just a calcium supplement anyway. Besides, wasn't that sent by your own former subordinates? A son raised by you, the god of war. How bad could his digestion be? Cang Xuan picked him up by his ankles and gave his bottom a gentle pat. These bad habits are all from you. Carefree and thoughtless. Cang Xuan, watch your mouth. Who was it that insisted on our wedding night to hold that phoenix-raising manual and square accounts with me? Who said that since I was raised like a daughter, some rules had to be retaught? At the memory of that night, I couldn't help but feel my face flush. Just as we were talking, a few golden lights streaked across the sky. Lord God of War, Empress Lihuo, something huge has happened in the three realms. Cang Xuan's gaze turned cold in an instant. Is it a resurgence of the remnants of the demon realm? What is the panic about? Could it be that the extra-dimensional demons have broken the seal? It is the little celestial handmaidens in the heavenly realm. Hearing that the God of War is so skilled at parenting, they want you to teach those brute warriors how to raise children. Get lost. Cang Xuan, it seems your divine power has evolved to the point of cross-realm parenting guidance. It is not my fault, it is yours. If you hadn't constantly droned on about modern parenting, would I have to do everything myself, making myself a laughingstock to outsiders? Though he complained, his hands were incredibly gentle. Cang Xuan, do you truly have no regrets? You were meant to sit in the high heavens, revered by all as the God of War. He looked up toward the distance. I know he gave up his divinity for the sake of all living beings, treading every step upon the blades of the world. Lihuo, do you remember when you were just a bald little bird? Must you bring up the past? Do you want me to burn your robes to ashes? Back then, I thought that ugly bird was nothing but trouble, but later I realized that without that ugly bird chirping in my ear, the immortality of the three realms would be nothing but an endless misery. Power, status, divinity. I've possessed those things for thousands of years, and I grew tired of them long ago. Only this warmth of mortal life, this heat in the palms of my hands, is what I never dared to wish for yet cherish the most. At that very moment, the youngest, number 5, wobbled over and climbed onto Cang Xuan's shoulder. Mommy. Hug. And so, in this forest of phoenix trees, we watched the sunset paint the horizon the same, fiery red as a phoenix's feathers. Cang Xuan, what if one day, the well of fate declares our connection is at an end? Then I'll smash that well of fate to pieces and travel to the underworld myself to rewrite our fates together. Heh, how overbearing. But I like it. Lihuo. In this life, we no longer live for the sake of the three realms. We live for whatever we're having for breakfast tomorrow. Cang Xuan was taken aback for a moment, then burst into a hearty laugh. The laughter traveled far, startling the birds in the woods and warming the entire Phoenix Mountain. My name is Lihuo, and I am his only dream of mortality in this desolate divinity. Our story may have ended in the well of fate, but here among the grass and trees it has only just begun. Cang Xuan, number 3 is using your War God decree to level the table leg again. Go catch him. My lady, couldn't you give me a hand? No way, my back hurts. When you were sparring last night, why didn't you think about the fact that we'd have to watch the kids today? Cang Xuan froze in place. Amidst the laughter of all the children, the former God of War rolled up his sleeves and strode off to chase after that mischievous little phoenix. I sat on the rocking chair, laughing until I doubled over, clutching what he had just snuck into my hand, the Phoenix Imperial seal carved with my name. Life really isn't so bad after all.